Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. With the slump yesterday, as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point, other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. Toadstool Sports Wednesday, December 10th. Yesterday, the win versus loss all depended on what number you got on the UConn game, man. I mean, this is like, we're talking about some razor-thin margins here. The Ohio State one did not get there. They were in that game, kind of, but they were down 6 to 8 points the majority of the game, pretty much hanging in there. They cut it to 1 in the middle of the second half. It was looking like they were headed in the right direction, and then they still fell short. They were just a little bit too far behind. Couldn't stay within it. I think they probably had some intentional fouls at the end, so that didn't get there. And for the Connecticut game, they probably should have covered every number, but it all depended on what number you got, man. It was 4.5 when I gave it on my show this morning, and then when I went to put it into Action Network to track it, it was already down to 4, 3.5. I'm like, oh boy. So I wasn't sure which way the line was going to go. It looked like the market actually moved against me as the day went on that one, which I wasn't sure that was going to be the case. Basically, I thought the public would be on UConn along with pretty much the professionals, so I didn't really think the number was going to move the other way. So I guess we have to track it as a loss and a losing day on the show here. But some people that got to it later in the day probably won on the 3.5 or pushed because they won by 4. They probably should have won by more than that. I mean, yeah, it was a low-scoring game, but I said that UConn, if they control the pace, it was going to be low-scoring, which is what they want to do. They were up, I think, around 8 points with a few minutes left in the game, looking like they were ready to cover that thing, and then Florida cut the lead back down, and UConn wound up winning by exactly 4. Pretty brutal, but again, it's the importance of getting the best number that you can. And then we won a close one in hockey where Anaheim kind of got outplayed in that game statistically, but they won, I think, in overtime. But a close game as an underdog, I mean, it kind of, you can argue it's the right play. The situational read was why I did that play, obviously. I almost didn't add it, but it was the win that we had yesterday. I mean, it was a win if you got a win on the Connecticut one, too. But yeah, it was a win, so I'll take it. They were winning. There was no point where they were losing the game except when they fell behind 3-2 late in the game, and it looked like it was over. But as Anaheim tends to do, they tied it in the final minutes and then won in overtime. So I've been on the bad side of that, and now I'm on the good side of that. So maybe I need to get a Ducks Chris Kreider jersey. I don't know. Let's get into today. I don't love this board today, man. It's a pretty small board, mostly college basketball. My 2 plays are both going to be in college basketball. There's not a whole lot else going on here. Could jump right into it here. We do have a game at noon on ESPN Plus between Norfolk State and Baylor. Kind of a weird matchup here. Norfolk State is coming off a couple other fairly big games. They had to go to Arizona, and obviously that was a mismatch. They couldn't really compete against Arizona. But then they came back to the Virginia area, and they played in what I think they consider to be an in-state bigger brother, James Madison. And as an underdog, Norfolk State took that game to the wire, basically. They only lost by 1 point. big game for Norfolk State, and that's what they're coming off of now. Don't know exactly what the line was in this game. They probably weren't a huge underdog, but they were definitely an underdog in that game. So now Norfolk State going to have to keep up that level of effort multiple games in a row. Might be a little bit difficult, even though generally you think, well, they will try to step it up for Baylor, but that game against JMU might have taken a lot out of them, man. And with the travel to Arizona before that, Baylor is coming off a fairly big game as well, though it was their first true road game. They lost at Memphis, which is a big game. Memphis still has that name surrounding them. They're not exactly a great team, though. Maybe Baylor does bounce back from that. After Baylor took their first loss to a better St. John's team, Baylor actually did bounce back fine with a win against San Diego State. So I'm leaning towards Baylor bouncing back here. I would probably lean towards laying it with Baylor. Not a strong opinion here, but they're up from 25 to 27 now. 57% of tickets, 74% of the cash on them. Pretty low total, 149.5, although it has gone up. For Baylor, I think they actually play faster this year than they have in recent years. Yeah, their tempo is a bit faster than I'm used to. I'm used to Baylor being a slow team over the last couple of years. They're not really this year. Yeah, overall, I would lean slightly towards Baylor in that one. As far as some of these other games, Merrimack and Princeton, which is kind of at a weird time at 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus as well. Princeton, they're coming off a game where they went to Loyola Chicago, and I know Loyola Chicago, I've talked about how they've been really, really underperforming this year, and we have to decide whether we might have had them like severely overvalued coming into this season, or maybe they're better than their start would indicate, and maybe that's the case here. Loyola was a fairly big favorite in this game, though. And Princeton, who's kind of down this year, especially because they lost Xavier Lee, who was one of their best players. He's on Florida now and not doing particularly great with Florida. But Princeton played pretty close as a pretty big underdog there against Loyola. Now they're coming off of that game. Now they get Merrimack. And up next, they got a pretty big game against Temple, although I know it's not for 12 days. But they might consider that to be a bit of a bigger game because we're talking about Princeton, New Jersey, Temple, Philadelphia area. Maybe they overlook this Merrimack team that looks like they're maybe a little bit under the radar right now, even though I don't think Merrimack is that good. But I would probably lean towards taking the 3.5 with Merrimack here. 80% of tickets, 96% of the cash on Princeton for now. But I think taking the points somewhat makes sense in that one. The total is up to a whopping 137.5. Not a high total, so the points are worth more in that game as well. Saab, what's up, man? Yeah, I was not good on the NBA yesterday. Spurs, yeah, I'm going to talk about those games. I don't love the games, but I probably agree with you on the Spurs in that one. I think you can get a better number than 5.5 right now, too, I think. All right. What else do we want to talk about here? Miami, Ohio, and Asheville. UNC Asheville at 6 p.m. Miami, Ohio, they're 8-0 to start the season, but they've had a very, very weak schedule. Like, even their Division I opponents have been, for the most part, pretty bad. So this Miami, Ohio team, they may be one of the better teams in the MAC still, but they're not as good as this record looks. Now they're going back out on the road. I know they did handle a road game, having to go all the way out into Elevation and play Air Force. They handled that fine. Air Force is pretty bad, though. But UNC Asheville looks like they're really down this year, too. So I don't really know what to do with this game. UNC Asheville's coming off a pretty big step-up game against NC State on the road, an in-state bigger brother, NC State. You know UNC Asheville's going to get up for a game like that, and they didn't play too poorly. They only lost by 12. Really weird game to handicap here. Miami, Ohio's up to a 4.5-point road favorite, although I don't know. I mean, something in me tells me to slightly lean towards taking the points there because I just see this weak schedule that Miami, Ohio has played, and I kind of want to go against it, even though I didn't do that with Florida last night, even though, like I said, Florida is better than their record indicates. But I still think UConn should have been the right side in that game and was if you got the better number. The first big conference game that we have a Big Ten matchup at 7 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. Minnesota is at Purdue. Purdue, who I think was number one in the country, because they get blown out in one game. They have one really bad half against Iowa State, and now they're ranked 6th in the country. I think, again, these rankings makers, they overreact to one game, dude. Like, you do not want to overreact to one game. This this game is like the poster child for that. And I'm actually tempted to give out a play on this, although I have some reasons not to do it. But I'm going to lean towards laying the points with Purdue in this one. We're looking at opposite sides of the spectrum here. Basically, like people are just going to completely overreact to one result for each team. Ken Bum does have Purdue at the sixth best team in the country right now as well. But yeah, they lost to Iowa State, which is what I'm referring to. Iowa State's very, very good. But you lose 81-58 to anybody, you're going to be angry, man. So I kind of expect Purdue to bounce back off of that. That was just a disgusting loss. This game was at home, too, for Purdue. But everybody's just going to be knocking Purdue, I think, too hard for this. If you look at what happened in this game, and Iowa State shot crazy in the game, 48% from three. 54% from the field. Purdue had kind of a bad shooting game, especially Purdue usually shoots pretty well, but 22% from three, way lower than what you would expect. Purdue lost the turnover battle. They actually won the rebounding battle. So a lot of this is outlier stuff that I think indicates to me that Purdue is going to bounce back from this. Again, they were winning this game. I think they were winning almost like close to halftime in this game, or getting fairly close to the end of the first half, and then everything just imploded on them. Again, I think people are going to overreact to that. And on the other side of things, we had Minnesota in their last game. They pulled off the upset over Indiana. That was a nice win in Minnesota's conference home opener here, man. Beating Indiana, that's a huge deal. Now, they do have to go out on the road. I understand, yeah, Minnesota should be focused for a game against Purdue, but they pulled off a 10.5-point upset in that game, man, against Indiana. We got the nice outright win on the show with that one. They could be in a bit of a letdown spot here. And the last time they went out on the road, they only had one true road game, and they were pretty bad against Missouri, losing by 23, and Purdue was better than Missouri. Now, my hesitations are Purdue plays slow, so they're not really the style of team that I really want to lay that many points with. And when a team's coming off their first loss, sometimes they do lose the game twice, essentially, and they could get hung over a little bit. And I do think Minnesota will try to show up for this. It's going to be about, like, is Minnesota going to run out of gas after that huge performance against Indiana? So those are my hesitations with it. I do lean towards Purdue because I do think this is kind of that, like I said, it's kind of the overreaction game where you could overreact to each team's outlier result that they just had. So I still lean towards Purdue. You got to lay 20 with Purdue now on this if you really want to do it. 92% of tickets, 98% of the cash on them. It is a low total of 143.5 with both teams, I think, wanting to play pretty slow here. So I do worry about that. Although Minnesota, not great. I mean, they're outside of Ken Bum's top 100. They play crazy slow. 355th out of 365 teams. But again, Purdue is 333rd. So Purdue does play very slow as well. So an under, might make sense in this game as well. Money looks like it's kind of coming towards the over in that game, though, for whatever reason. Maybe a little bit of a hesitation there because Purdue's offense just had a really bad game in that last game. You got to expect they're going to shoot better this time against Minnesota. So you're on the Utah Mammoth. I do not agree with that one. I don't think. I forget. Oh, no, wait. When did we fade Utah? In the previous game? I forget. I was thinking they were returning home from a road trip, but that was the last game. I still might not agree with it, though. Best bets already. We have one coming up, and I'm going to the dregs here, man. This is the absolute dregs of college basketball here. And I've been on and against this team a couple of times, and I think we're probably about 500 on it, but we're going to take NJIT +2 or 2.5 here against New Haven. First of all, is New Haven really deserving of laying points on the road against anybody? Maybe if it's like Mississippi Valley State, but we're talking about two teams that are really, really bad here, but New Haven is bad. Ken Bum has New Haven 339th in the country, and then NJIT is even worse, but only 10 ranking spots lower. So it's like, what are we doing here, man? And NJIT will try to speed this game up, and if they can kind of control the pace at home, that will throw New Haven out of what they're trying to do, because New Haven wants to play slow. Both of these teams are miserable offensively, so taking the points seems like the way to go, even if it's only 2 points. When you're expected to get very little offense, that seems to be the way to go. I mean, both these teams are just bad overall, dude. I mean, what can I say? They're both bad. They're both they're very, very comparable teams. So, again, getting points at home with teams that are almost evenly ranked, I think also does make sense here. Both teams are fairly high in Ken Baum's luck index as well, so I think that kind of evens out as well. But this is really about the spot, man. I mean, New Haven, they're new to Division I. I understand they played better than people probably thought they would. They've been pretty good, but look at what they just did in their last game, man. They went to BC, kind of the big boy in New England still, and New Haven, I think they had to have been at least double-digit underdogs in this game, man. I don't know exactly what the line was, but New Haven had chances to win this game outright against BC, against the big boy, man. New Haven was winning this game the majority of the first half. They were winning by double digits at halftime. They blew the lead. They got it back. They still led. They fell behind late in the second half, came back again. They were within 1 point in the final minute 18 and fell just short. I mean, this is a massive performance from New Haven. So I just don't understand. I don't see how they're going to get up off the mat after that, man. When you have a giant underdog like that and they almost pull off the huge upset, and that was only 4 days ago, a lot of times they will fall flat in the next game, and they do have a break after this, and then they get Fordham and Vandy, which I think are probably bigger games than NJIT. I mean, nobody really pays much attention to NJIT. They're at 3-7. They suck. We all know they suck. But NJIT, they're on a 6-game losing streak. Every one of those games was on the road, though. And now they're back at home where they're actually 1-1 at home, with their one loss being a bad loss to Fairfield, I know. Fairfield is an okay MAAC team, I guess. They did win at home against Fairleigh Dickinson. In-state little brother Fairleigh Dickinson. They beat them down. I think we might have lost on that game, too. But NJIT back at home, where they have only played those 2 home games, so I think it'll be good for them to be back at home. They've had an extra day off compared to New Haven as well, so there's an extra day of rest here. Although, yes, NJIT is traveling back from wherever High Point is, South Carolina, North Carolina, wherever the hell it is. NJIT, they were not horrible in that game. They lost by 17 to a much better High Point team. So New Haven is a huge step down in class here. Yeah, I like NJIT in this one. It's a terrible spot for New Haven. That's pretty much the handicap here. New Haven, they don't even get... They still don't even get listed on pregame. They don't even have their name yet. This line's already dropping, man, from 2.5 down to 1.5. So I would try to probably jump on this because I don't think it's going to go back up. But although who knows? But the public's just not going to be touching this game probably. So I like NJIT plus the points there. And of course, I still have the timers on these because again, I hate StreamYard. I am never going to get used to this, man. But there you go, NJIT plus the points. Okay. More basketball. Let's keep going, man. And I'm thinking about maybe starting to jump into doing bracketology videos pretty soon as well. Charleston and South Florida playing. This is an interesting game. It's a decent game. South Florida just beat Utah State. That was a big win, man. That was at home, I believe, for South Florida. Utah State, quite good, and South Florida was an underdog at home, and they handled the game. They won by double digits. That's a very satisfying win. Now they get Charleston, and they got to turn around, and they got to go to Alabama in a week. That is a potential look ahead right there, man. That's a big game, having Alabama on deck. So this does look like a sandwich spot that South Florida is in here. Charleston is coming off getting blown out by Belmont. Belmont's a pretty solid team, but I do worry because Charleston has only had a true road game once, and it was at Liberty. Liberty's a pretty solid team. Charleston didn't perform well. They lost by 15. I think that was in like a tournament that Liberty hosts. But yeah, it's just my hesitation is just Charleston not really battle tested on the road yet. But I do not like South Florida in this game. So I would lean towards taking the points with Charleston in this one. Money seems to agree. South Florida's up to 15.5, 75% of the tickets on them, 70% of the cash coming back on the Charleston side. I do not disagree with that. I would agree with the money in that one. Charleston plus the points makes sense to me. Western Kentucky at Marshall, kind of interesting as well. Western Kentucky decent start to the season. They just had a really ugly performance against Evansville, where Evansville, a very weak team, and Western Kentucky at home only beat them by 1. That's a pretty ugly outing, man, for Western Kentucky there. They were a pretty substantial favorite in this game, probably double digits, I would guess, or close to double digits, and they almost lost the game. Maybe they were looking ahead to Marshall a little bit, maybe coming off that tournament that they had played in and beaten Wichita State to finish the tournament after they actually played really close against Vandy and South Florida in that tournament as well. So sometimes when teams go all out in tournaments like that and they tend to come up flat in the next game, I think that's what happened in Western Kentucky. I think they'll play better in this game at Marshall, though it is only their second true road game. They played fine in the first one against their in-state sibling, Eastern Kentucky, who probably considers themselves to be a little brother because Western Kentucky has the better history. But Western Kentucky handled their business in that one. Marshall is coming off a fairly ugly loss themselves to Ohio, though Ohio's an okay team. That was a win for us on Saturday. We had Ohio because Marshall was coming off a huge performance against UNC Wilmington in the prior game. That would have been a big upset if Marshall pulled that off. So Marshall was in kind of they were in a flat spot in that game against Ohio. Now they're coming back home. I kind of expect them to play better as well. I slightly lean towards Western Kentucky here. The money is disagreeing with me on this one. 60% of tickets on Western and 95% of the cash on Marshall, who have flipped from +1.5 dog to a pick 'em here. That's a game that's definitely a stay away for me, though. Pinsy, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right, we have New Mexico and VCU. This is an interesting one also. Going to have to go to ESPN Plus for this. I mean, this is the only reason I still have the Disney Plus bundle is because you get all this ESPN. It's basically for college basketball. I mean, you get so many college basketball ESPN Plus games. That's pretty much why I have it. Oh, thank you, Pinsy. Do they like my picks? Hopefully. I don't know. I've been having a good end to the season, although I've been a little bit cool recently. But yeah, New Mexico, VCU, this is a crazy game, dude. VCU has gone from being like a slow-paced team back to a fast-paced team. New Mexico also likes to play fast, so this game I think is going to be up-tempo because both teams are going to want to do that. New Mexico off to a solid start at 7-2. They're coming off a really good game against Santa Clara where they obliterated Santa Clara, and Santa Clara is not a bad team. New Mexico beating them, I assume, at home in that one by 27 points. That's a big win, and now New Mexico has to go out to the East Coast, I think, for the first time this season. They're going to be in the Eastern time zone. Might be a bit of a difficult spot for them here, man. VCU sitting at 6-3. Maybe the public will kind of be leaning towards New Mexico a little bit for that reason. VCU is coming off a couple of real satisfying wins too, man. I mean, they beat Virginia Tech, who is still one of the big brothers in Virginia, even though VCU is probably the better team out of the two right now. But that's still a big win for them, and that was in one of those tournaments as well. They came off of that, and they had no letdown at all, and they crushed Samford in their most recent game. That's a pretty nice win as well. Samford, not a bad team in their conference that they're in, the SoCon, or at least they have been one of the better teams in that conference the last couple of years. Now VCU is coming off of all that. Looks like it's kind of a bad spot for both teams, although I would kind of lean towards the fact that it's just a weird travel spot for New Mexico, so I kind of like VCU in this one. New Mexico looks like they're taking the money, though. VCU's down from 10.5 to 9 here. 57% of tickets, 92% of the cash coming back on New Mexico, so the money is on New Mexico. I don't really agree with that. I would lean towards laying it, especially when you think it's going to be a higher scoring game, which I know I was wrong. I apologize. I was wrong about the BYU one. Like, that game was, BYU never got anything going. They almost lost the game. It looked like they were going to have no chance to cover that game last night, and they wound up winning by 3, but it was definitely a Clemson-paced game, so I apologize for that. Clemson controlled the pace of that game. I was kind of surprised by that, although it was a weird venue for both teams. Like, that game was somewhere on the East Coast, right? I forget. It was at Madison Square Garden, I think. Very, very strange, which I think it was a doubleheader there, right? It was the Jimmy V thing in Yukon, Florida was the second game there. I forget. Something like that. Oh, well, thank you, sir. Let's turn more people onto it and see if they can handle my long-winded explanations for everything here. Yeah, but New Mexico VCU, I wouldn't disagree with an over in this one either. This is where I was going with that. The total did go up a little bit to 155.5. I just think when you have two teams that are probably going to push the pace, and they're both somewhat, I think, in kind of iffy spots as well. I kind of think the defense might be a little bit shoddy in that game, so I don't disagree with an over in that one. Hopefully I'm correct on that one this time, although, again, I don't do that much with totals. Bryant at Iona. I don't love the spot that Iona is in here. They're a decent team, but they do have a pretty significant look ahead where they have to play St. John's in 3 days. That's a huge game for Iona, man, because Iona is somewhere like just outside of New York City, I think slightly north of New York City. St. John's is a big opponent for them, man. St. John's being a New York City team, that's like an in-state, like an almost in-city big brother situation there. So I think Iona might overlook Bryant in this one, although Iona's only coming off beating Sacred Heart, which is not an impressive win. Bryant, I don't really want to jump in on them either because they did just have a game against what I think they consider to be an in-state big brother in Brown, although they lost pretty badly. They lost by 19 points at Brown, so I guess maybe you could make the argument they will be in a bounce back here. I think the look ahead for Iona is the biggest component there, though. That St. John's game is going to be big for them, so I would lean towards taking the points with Bryant in that game. Iona up to 10.5. Although, again, I'm giving out all these, like, very, very weak leans here from me. Like, this is basically just kind of insight into how I look at these games, you know what I mean? And then the best bets are my strongest opinions, of course. So, obviously, I think we have to weigh those higher than everything else. But I'm just giving out my opinions on basically everything here, man. Idaho is going to have to go to Notre Dame here and play in South Bend. Very, very weird travel spot for Idaho, man. Although you think they probably should step it up when they get to play against a power conference team like Notre Dame. Yes, they're in a power conference in basketball. People are knocking them for not being in a conference in football. They still got screwed by not being included in the playoff. But yes, Notre Dame is in the ACC in basketball and used to be in the Big East when the Big East was powerful. Idaho's coming off a big game, though. They just pulled off an upset at why do I keep saying San Diego? At South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. That was a big win for Idaho up there, man. They were definitely an underdog in that game. Probably, I would guess, of about several points. Nice upset from them. Now they have to go to South Bend, second straight road game. Even though, yes, ideally they're going to want to step it up playing a big conference team, they just might run out of steam, man, having to put in an effort 2 games in a row like this. Problem is Notre Dame's coming off a nice win at TCU. So Notre Dame's pulled off. They've had a nice run of games here, man, where they played fairly close against Kansas out in Vegas. I think they beat Rutgers after that. Played pretty well against Houston, only losing by 10 to Houston. Then they beat Missouri and then beat TCU in a true road game. So Notre Dame's had a stretch of a lot of difficult games as well. So both these teams are in bad spots. So I can't really do anything with this game as far as the side is concerned. The money looks like it's coming in on Idaho. I'm not really sure I'd want to deal with that. Notre Dame's down from 14 and a half to 11, excuse me. 59% of the tickets, 66% of the cash on Idaho. So the money does seem to be indicating on Idaho. Total's fairly low on 143.5, and I know low totals usually mean you're going to get a low-scoring game. Notre Dame doesn't play fast, but they play really slow, in fact. But I don't know, man. With both teams being in very questionable spots, I kind of think that I would see that game going over that total in that one. Even though usually I like going, I would like, usually I would prefer an under when it's lower total. But yeah, it's an interesting one nonetheless. Liberty is playing NC State. You got to think Liberty will step up their game against a power conference team like NC State. Liberty from Virginia, NC State, obviously North Carolina, so it's not quite an in-state sibling situation here, but Liberty's probably still going to step it up for this. Liberty's coming off an easy game against Coppin State where could have been a bad spot for Liberty because they were coming off one of those multi-team tournaments. They're the MTEs is what they're called, multi-team events. A lot of times when teams come back from that, they don't play well, but Coppin State is just horrendous, dude. And I think Coppin State missed on the cover last night, too, by like 2 points against St. Joe's. So it's a good thing I didn't add that because I'd be really, really angry about that one. That Coppin State team is horrific. But Liberty was able to crush them. And now they're coming into this game against NC State. I think Liberty will show up focused here in this one. For NC State is coming off that game that I mentioned against UNC Asheville where they didn't play that well. They won by 12. But NC State does have a fairly significant look ahead here where they have to play Kansas in 3 days on Saturday on ESPN. That's going to be a big game for them, man. So I would lean towards Liberty in this one overall. I do think the spot sets up better for them. NC State's up to a 13-point favorite, but the money does seem to be, at least for now, coming in on Liberty. 70% of the tickets, 76% of the cash on Liberty. Not going to disagree with that one. UMass and Boston College, the big Massachusetts game here, where I already pointed out BC just had a horrendous game against New Haven, and probably a bad spot for BC, to be honest. I mean, BC was coming off a pretty big game against LSU where they fell short by 9 at home. Big game against an SEC team. I think BC just completely overlooked New Haven here, man. And maybe BC was even looking ahead to this UMass game because it is a bigger game. I mean, BC and UMass are kind of the two big schools in Massachusetts in basketball. So I think BC was kind of looking ahead to this. You got to expect they're going to be more focused in this one off of that horrendous game where they almost lost as a huge favorite to New Haven. UMass is going to be up for this game too, though, and this game is actually in Springfield, Mass, so it's closer to UMass. It's closer to Amherst than Boston here. This is out in Western Mass. It's about 3 hours from Boston. Springfield is an absolute shithole. I can tell you that. I've been out there numerous times. It is horrendous. You never want to go to Springfield. But they made it so much better, man, by putting casinos in out there in Springfield, man. So now you can go degenerate gamble while you're out there, while you're also dealing with all the crackheads and meth heads that are on the streets out there. Springfield is, oh, God, it's god-awful. Stay away, man. But for UMass, they're coming off beating down their little brother in UMass Lowell, who's looking pretty awful this year. UMass got the win there. It's still satisfying when you beat down your little brother like that, but you got to think UMass is definitely going to show up against the biggest brother in the state of Massachusetts and BC. I expect focus out of both teams here. So usually that kind of means an under makes sense. So the money is coming in on the over, it looks like here. It's up to 142.5 on the total. 50% of the tickets on the under, but 74% of the cash on the over. So I'm not going to be recommending an under in this one. The money looks like the market read, let's say, looks like it is indicating on laying the points with BC. UMass looks like they're a public underdog here. 88% of the tickets on them, only 72% of the cash. BC down from 3.5 to 2.5. I'm not going to disagree. I just think if both teams show up focused, BC being the somewhat better team, if they show up, and are really pissed off of that really bad performance against New Haven, you should get the better effort out of BC here. So I don't really disagree with laying the points with BC there. Those are my thoughts on that one. 10-leg NHL parlay yesterday, NHL prop parlay. Every player to record 1 point. Hell yeah, man. That is a nice win on those parlays. Although, you know what I think about parlays? I think it's basically like playing the lottery. Although if you're only putting $25 on it, why not? Because you just got to be sort of resigned to the fact that if you're going to lose that money, you're basically paying for entertainment value. You know what I mean? Although my family, dude, we all get a little bit degenerate, man. We have a history of one of our traditions is scratch tickets on Christmas. We have like a bunch of different family games that we do that include board games. One year it was warm out and we did cornhole. I think maybe we've done that a couple of years. We just have random weird events, talent competition one year, definitely board games. Find the Grinch, like a Grinch hunt at this house that over decorates and always hides the Grinch. We got a lot of things going on, man, but we always do scratch tickets. We give each other scratch tickets. They're always stocking stuffers, and we all basically the winner of the scratch ticket event is whoever gets the most money out of the scratch tickets, because we have like an amount that we all spend on it, so the amount that everybody gets out of the scratch tickets is equal. So that's how it's fair. So whoever wins the most out of the same amount of scratch tickets wins. So yeah, we do that, even though you're going to lose, man. The lottery is rigged. It is rigged towards politically connected. You can look it up. Like, there's a lot of evidence that the politically connected win almost every state lottery. You played the BYU money line. There you go. Hopefully you did it live when they were losing that game in the second half, man. You got a nice play on the money line in that one if you did that. All right, what other games that I even want to talk about? I don't know. A lot of these games are not totally interesting here. Houston is playing today against this Jackson State team that they continue, to give themselves just a massive gauntlet to start out the season, man. I mean, they do it to battle test themselves, so they're ready for conference play, man, even though they didn't win their conference last year. But I'm not going to knock it. It's like the extreme Tom Izzo approach, where, hey, let's just play all of these really difficult schools. So they are playing Houston today. Obviously, I'm not going to expect Jackson State to win that game, although Houston, I mean, do you want to lay 40.5 with Houston in a game with a total as low as 136? Probably not. I mean, Houston is just probably going to get in, get out, win the game. Like, they can win this game by 20 without even breaking a sweat, probably. So that's probably the type of thing you're going to see in that game. Houston plays really slow as well, as I point out a lot. But not really an interesting game to me. UT Martin and Southern Illinois. We had UT Martin in their last game. We got a win with them. UT Martin's off to a nice 7-2 start, man. They got the nice win and cover for us after they started off pretty slow against Alabama State. Alabama State ran out of steam, which was part of that handicap, was the potential that Alabama State, coming off a huge game, they were going to lose steam by the end of this one, and that's what happened. Now UT Martin going on the road to Southern Illinois. UT Martin's been good on the road, though. If you look, their true road games, they have wins on the road against UNLV and Bradley. Those are nice road wins, man. I mean, UT Martin was obviously an underdog in those games, and they played well, and they didn't even do that badly on the road against Florida State, only losing by 14. This UT Martin team, they're not bad, but Ken Bum does have them really high up in the luck index right now, so he is telling you that they're not as good as their record looks right now, that they've gotten some good breaks so far. So that's the issue that I have with this, because I like UT Martin again in this game. Southern Illinois is in a terrible spot, in my opinion. Yes, this is a road game for UT Martin, but again, they've been really good on the road so far. But the problem I have with this is that I think the public is going to look at this game, if they look at it and see UT Martin as a 7-2 team is getting 8.5 points from a 5-4 team, it just looks too easy to take the points here. You know what I mean? Although sometimes it is the correct side, and I kind of think it is here just because I don't like the spot for Southern Illinois, but I have some hesitations about it because Ken Bum's telling you UT Martin's overperforming right now. But looking at their schedule so far, I like how they've done on the road so far. They've been actually really excellent on the road so far. So I would still take UT Martin plus the points in this one if I was going to play him. Southern Illinois, as you know, the odds makers are telling you they are actually the better team here. Southern Illinois is coming off a nice upset win over High Point on the road, man. They were probably about an 8-9 point underdog in that game. They pulled off a nice upset there. Now they're back home, and in 3 days they got to play this Richmond team that's on fire right now. Richmond looking pretty good so far this year. That's going to be a bigger game, I think, for Southern Illinois, playing a team like Richmond, who's in a more respected conference, the A-10. So I think it's kind of a sandwich spot here. I'm going to leave the game alone. I would lean towards taking the points with UT Martin here. The money does seem to agree with it. Southern Illinois is down from 11 to 9 here. 83% of tickets, 98% of the cash on UT Martin. So it does look like a situation where, kind of like I said was going to happen here, it looks like the public, if they are getting involved in this game, plus the professionals are kind of all coming in on the UT Martin side. So that is a number that I do not expect to move back up unless it gets so low that some professionals just decide there's some value in taking the take back basically on the other side. You know, like if the line gets down to like 7, you know what I mean? Then there might be some play on Southern Illinois just from a purely numbers standpoint, you know? But yes, other than that, yes, I agree with the Tennessee Martin side there. And as a non-numbers guy, you know how I am. I like the situation. I just go all out with the situation. Try to get the best number that you can, man. That's the way that it is.
These losses stay with me. They fester, Jerry.
I don't know. I just felt like a drop. I don't have a drop really for that one. But all All right, next up is my only other play today. So you get 2 plays from me today. They're both in college basketball. Some of you guys aren't going to like this one because we're laying a giant favorite in this one. We're going to lay the points with Tulsa, minus 22.5. I think this is the correct side in this one. Tulsa up from 21.5 to 22.5. In that price range, hopefully it doesn't matter. We have a high total of 159.5. Part of this handicap is that it's expected that Tulsa is going to run the floor here and go up tempo, at least to a decent extent, enough to blow out Arkansas Pine Bluff here. Hopefully that is what happens here. We're not looking at a line that's like 30 plus here. So, it's one of those lines that's kind of in range of, even if the team that's way better like Tulsa doesn't even put in a full effort, they still could cover this number, and I think should. We're talking about Arkansas Pine Bluff here, man. I mean, this is a bad team. They're like bottom 10 in the country. I think Ken Pom must have them way down there. Let me see. He's got them. Where is Pine Bluff? Where do you have them, Ken Pom? He has them bottom 20, so my mistake. But he's got them fairly high in the luck index. Pine Bluff actually plays fast as well. So they play even faster than Tulsa, actually. But they're just really bad on both sides of the ball. They're like bottom 30 on both offense and defense. Horrendous. He's got Tulsa in the top 100. My mistake, actually. Tulsa plays slower this year. What am I talking about? So scratch that. But if Tulsa can slow Arkansas Pine Bluff down and frustrate them, hopefully they can hold Pine Bluff, down in this game. You could also maybe look towards Pine Bluff going under their team total. In this one, that might be a way to look as well if Tulsa's going to frustrate them, slow the game down. But the thing that Tulsa does do, though, is they actually play better offensively. So that does help us with laying the points here, because that's why I was thinking Tulsa plays fast, because they can score. Their defense is actually less good than their offense. But it's just it's one of those teams that plays a weird contrast where they play offense and they don't really play defense, but they're also slow. Very, very strange. It kind of like Purdue does something like that, though, which is, it's not all bad, I guess. But the spot is also just awful for Arkansas Pine Bluff. I mean, sure, ideally they'll try to get up for a game against Tulsa, but they're coming off a game against a Big East team, man. And hilariously, Arkansas Pine Bluff has played every single game on the road so far, which is, it's insane. But that has to take its toll, dude, by the end of this. And 4 days ago, within the last week, look at what they've done since last Wednesday. Last Wednesday, they beat Illinois Chicago on the road. So they actually had 2 games this week in the Chicago area. That was a huge upset. Illinois-Chicago, I believe, was a double-digit favorite in that game. And Pine Bluff pulled off the outright upset for their first win of the season. So, I'm not going to argue that Pine Bluff isn't battle-tested. They certainly are. But they're pretty much just not even competitive in most of these games. But then they were competitive on Saturday. They went to DePaul, Big East team, and they played really close against DePaul. And I think they were 23.5 point, somewhere like 22 to 23 point underdogs in this game. And they almost won the game outright against DePaul, man. So this was the game where Pine Bluff, they went all out in this game. They had the lead, throughout the middle portion of the game. They were winning this game outright by double digits in the second half, fell behind, and then didn't go away. And they played until the final buzzer, man. They were down by 1 possession in the final minute of the game within 3 points, and they lost by 4. I just don't see them having anything left off of those 2 games. A double-digit upset and then nearly pulling off a 20-plus point upset. That's why when I handicapped the DePaul game, man, I had a slight lean to DePaul, but I left it off my card because I thought Pine Bluff might still kind of get up for that one. But now they're not going to do it 3 games in a row, man, within a week span. I just don't think it's going to happen. Tulsa, the spot is just way better for them. I mean, they're just on cruise control right now. They're coming off an easy win against Missouri State. They're staying at home. Sorry to Justin. Missouri State's not that good. Missouri State hit 50% of their threes in that game, and Tulsa still won the game by 24. So that kind of tells you something. Tulsa didn't have the greatest game, or they kind of got unlucky, at least with Missouri State hitting a ton of threes, and Tulsa still absolutely handled them. So, and they covered the 22.5 in that game against Missouri State. So they should be able to cover against a much worse Pine Bluff team. The only issue is, are they going to be looking ahead to New Mexico State here? I don't think so. I mean, New Mexico State, 6-2 team. They're not in conference or anything like that. So I don't really see that being the case. We're going to do it. We're going to lay it with Tulsa, and that is the last college basketball play. My last play of the day, because we don't have a lot of hockey or NBA today. It's almost all college basketball today, man. So those are my two plays. I'll reiterate them at the end of the show. Other games that we have going on today, the other big game that we have, Big Ten gets the two biggest games of the day. A big one at 9 p.m., man. Probably the best game of the day is Wisconsin at Nebraska. This is in Lincoln, Nebraska. Nebraska now finds themselves ranked 23rd in the country, but I'm going to push back on that. You have a ranked Nebraska team, and you have Wisconsin unranked. Yet, if you look at what the odds makers are telling you, they're kind of telling you Wisconsin's the better team, even though it looks like the line move initially came in on Nebraska, flipping them from a 2.5-point dog to a 2-point favorite, but they're not getting full home court advantage here. So the odds makers are telling you they think Wisconsin is actually the slightly better team. And when I show you Ken Baum in a minute, he agrees with that. 80% of the tickets, only 70% of the cash on Nebraska. So Nebraska is kind of a public side here. And I think the public is going to see a small line like this, pick the winner, and they're going to go, oh, the ranked team at home. That's what we're going to go with, right? I disagree. I would take the points with Nebraska, especially if this line, it might keep going up, man, because if the public is going to be involved in a game tonight, they're going to jump in on this game because it's the big game of the night. So if the public wants some action, it'll be this. And, of course, they're going to play Nebraska. Nebraska's undefeated. Like, that's what they're going to do. It looks easy, right? They just have to pretty much win the game. Again, when something looks that easy, it's usually not. Nebraska, they're coming up beating Creighton. They beat them by 21 points. That's a huge game for Nebraska, though, man. I understand this also is, which is why I don't really want to I can't really quite get there with Wisconsin because I just don't really want to fade Nebraska in what is still a big matchup in their Big Ten home opener here. And I think their Big Ten opener as well overall. But they are coming off a huge win over Creighton, man, and that is a Nebraska rivalry, smacking down what is now your little brother pretty much again in Creighton, beating them by 21. That is very satisfying. And on Saturday, they got to turn around and play Illinois, who's ranked 13th in the country. So that could be a little bit of a cause for a look ahead. So it is possible they're overlooking Wisconsin a little bit here, man. Wisconsin's at 7-2 right now. Now, I worry about Wisconsin a little bit because they haven't stepped up that well in class. Like, their one true road game, they lost by 28 at BYU. That was bad. And especially because I gave out Wisconsin as a play there. I thought the spot wasn't that good for BYU. And Wisconsin was looking for tournament revenge, and they just got obliterated. But the good thing for them here is at least they're not going to be in high elevation this time. They're playing in the flatlands, man, the prairie. So it should be a little bit better for them. Plus, Wisconsin's more familiar with this venue because it's a Big Ten matchup. But Wisconsin, they're pretty battle-tested. I mean, they're probably more battle-tested than Nebraska because they have played against BYU. They did lose that game against TCU. Also, by the way, a loss for us on Wisconsin. So Wisconsin has not been kind to us. I faded TCU after they upset Florida, and Wisconsin could not get it done there, although they were a favorite there. But then after that, Wisconsin's looked good since then. They beat a Northwestern team that's not bad, and then they beat Marquette, who, even though they're down this year, good win against Marquette. But my issue now is that, yeah, Wisconsin's going back out on the road. They were not impressive the last time they were out on the road. They will still step up their game for this game, though, man. But they are coming off a very satisfying in-state win themselves, man. So both teams are coming off beating down like their in-state little brother, essentially, with Wisconsin beating Marquette by 20 points. So both teams are kind of in a letdown situation as far as that's concerned. Although, again, I don't think either team is really going to be in a letdown mode in this game. It's still a big game for both teams. For Wisconsin, it is not their conference opener, though. For Nebraska, it is. Wisconsin did already play at home against Northwestern, like I said. But again, it kind of just becomes a numbers play when you think both teams are going to show up here. And I think that the value is on the side of Wisconsin, again, because I think Nebraska's overranked right now, and Wisconsin's under the radar because they're not ranked right now. But Ken Baum, he is telling you that Wisconsin's the better team. He has them just outside of his top 25 at number 26, and he has Nebraska all the way down at 42. So he has Nebraska actually the more lucky team, and he has Wisconsin having faced the stronger strength of schedule so far. And he has Wisconsin as the better offense, but Nebraska is the better defense. So take from that what you will. And yes, Nebraska is going to try to speed up the tempo here, but Wisconsin actually plays even faster than Wisconsin plays even faster than Nebraska now. So the up-tempo style of Nebraska is not going to throw Wisconsin off now, because we're used to Wisconsin being this like slow-paced team, but they're not now. So yeah, all that being said, long-winded there, but I would lean towards taking the points with Wisconsin in that one. But I'm just explaining some of the reasons why I'm not getting there with it. And then Duquesne and Boise State is actually a decent game in the night slate here. Duquesne having to go to Boise is a weird spot, though, man. Their only true road game so far was at Villanova. And Duquesne played well in the game. They only lost by 10, but now they have to go all the way out to Boise. Seems like kind of a difficult spot, man, even if they are going to step up their game for a team like Boise that's been pretty good in the Mountain West over the last couple of seasons, made the tournament. I think they missed it last year, but the last couple of years they made it. Boise's not in the greatest spot either, though, man. Boise just went into Indianapolis and beat Butler in a true road game, and now they're having to come back home from that. That's a big win, man. You go on the road to a Big East team and you beat them. Butler, fairly down this year, but still, that's a big win for Boise. Now coming back home, and in 4 days, Boise's got St. Mary's. That's a huge game. St. Mary's, very good team. So it is possible Boise kind of overlooks Duquesne here, man. It is looking sandwichy. So you basically have Boise in a sandwich spot, and you have to kind of weigh that against Duquesne being in an unfamiliar travel spot. And it's like, well, which one is going to win out? I would say you want to look towards taking the points. Boise is up to a 14-point favorite. 76% of tickets, 80% of the cash on Duquesne. Duquesne's not a bad team this year, but now Boise slows the game down. So that's both good and bad if you like Duquesne here. It's good as far as the fact that if you want to take the points might be worth more because Boise's going to try to slow the game down. It's bad because Duquesne wants to speed the game up, although this total's not that low at 151. Duquesne wants to speed it up, but if Boise is able to slow it down, that's going to frustrate a team like Duquesne, you know. So we have some kind of a tempo collision here. So we'll see which one wins out here, man. I would slightly lean towards taking the points, but don't have a strong opinion there. All right, NHL. Only a couple of games in the NHL tonight. I don't love the board. We got the Rangers at Chicago. The Rangers, of course, on the road. The Rangers are really good on the road, man. They're 12-4-1 on the road. So this Ranger team, as I keep pointing out, they're excellent on the road. Way worse at home for whatever reason. This spot, though, I don't know if I love the spot for the Rangers here, though. The Rangers, they just had two big games, taking both Colorado and Vegas into overtime, man. And now this is a single game out on the road, so it's not a road trip. So, like the first game on a road trip, a lot of times you'll be more focused because you want to kick off the trip the right way. But sometimes when you have a single game road trip, it's a little bit weird. And sometimes you just won't be focused on it. And coming off those huge games where they took both of those really good teams into overtime, maybe it is a kind of a hangover spot for the Rangers here, even though they haven't played since Sunday. So they do have a couple of days off. But I don't know. I kind of worry about the spot for the Rangers a little bit, although, yes, they are really good on the road typically. Blackhawks, I mean, this spot is hard to gauge too because on the one hand, the Blackhawks got obliterated in their last two games out on the Pacific Coast. They lost by 6 goals in 2 games in a row, which I talked about the last 2 days. We won playing both teams off of those wins because they were both starting road trips against teams returning from road trips, which I'm going to talk about the return from a road trip in a second here. Chicago lost 6-0 to the Kings and 7-1 to Anaheim. So, yeah, normally I would say when a team loses that embarrassingly 2 games in a row, they're going to bounce back from that. The problem is Chicago's returning home from a road trip, man. Yes, they have 2 days off. Yes, they're coming off some horrendous losses, but when a team's returning home from a road trip and they have to go back out on the road and play on Friday at St. Louis, when a team's only coming home for that one game and then they have to go back out on the road, it's a difficult spot, man, because, again, I always talk about how the team could be distracted. They have to get back to home life. Chicago's been on the road since last Tuesday, so it was a trip that took them out to the Pacific time zone, Pacific Coast. haven't been at home for a while. When you get home, you have stuff to do back at home. You can get a bit distracted. So I don't love the spot that Chicago is in either. So where do we land on this game? Rangers are down from minus 138 to minus 133 on the road. So the fact that the Rangers are a road favorite like that does tell you something, because people are probably going to look at it and think, well, the Rangers don't have that much better of a record than Chicago does overall. So why are they laying a price like this on the road, right? Well, the odds makers are telling you the Rangers are the better team. They are also way better on the road. 65% of tickets, 75% of the cash on the Rangers. I think because the strongest part of the situational angle is fading the return home spot, that plus the Rangers being really good on the road, I would probably agree with the Rangers side here overall. 65% of tickets, 75% of the cash on the Rangers. So that is those are my thoughts on that one. We got Detroit at Calgary here. Detroit coming off a nice win over Vancouver, 4-0 a couple days ago. Continuing a road trip where they're already 2-1 on the road trip. They might overlook Calgary, though, man, because they got Edmonton tomorrow. Edmonton is always going to draw more of your focus than Calgary will, at least for the time being. So with Edmonton tomorrow and coming off a shutout over Vancouver, even though Vancouver's down this year, I don't love the spot for Detroit here. Calgary, they're staying at home, and I don't know about the spot that they're in either, even though they're staying at home. They're coming off a blowout win, basically, over Buffalo, where they won 7-4, but I still lean towards Calgary. I think Detroit is in the worst spot. I do expect Calgary will still show up focused here for a game against a team like Detroit. The money seems to agree with that. Detroit's up to minus 108 on the money line. 72% of the tickets on them and only 57% of the cash. I agree with the money in this one. I would lean towards Calgary there. Florida at Utah. This is Saab's game. I might have been wrong, by the way. I was thinking of a different game, I think. Let me see. I might agree with Saab on this one, actually. My apologies. I was thinking about a different game. Florida. Well, Florida is starting a road trip with momentum here, so I don't really want to fade Florida in a spot like this, although I can see the argument for it because they do have Colorado and then Dallas. They have to play Colorado tomorrow and then Dallas after this, so I do agree they might overlook Utah for that reason. But typically I'm going to kind of just hesitate a little bit to fade a team starting a road trip here. But I might not disagree with this Utah side here, man. I could definitely see Florida just focusing on that Colorado game tomorrow. So you might not even get Bobrovsky in net in this one. I would see if he's going to play or not in this one. They might use Tarasov again in this one. But generally, starting a road trip, a team is going to be focused. But with Colorado up tomorrow, Mammoth only being a 500 team if you don't include the overtime losses. Yeah, Saab, I think you're right. It does look like they're going to kind of overlook Utah. And Utah is at least in a positive spot because they returned home from a road trip. We got the win, fading them in that road trip return spot, which, as I always say, a team returns home from a road trip. They can get caught. They can get in a distracted spot. They're going to be looking ahead to the next game. Utah did drop that game, and well, they might not be looking ahead to the next game, but if that game is a big game, they'll be looking ahead to it in addition to the distractions that they have in returning back to home life is what I meant to say. But in this case, I do think Utah was looking ahead to the returning champs, Florida. And now that Utah didn't play well in that first game back home, that sets up a positive spot because when the team doesn't do well in the return home spot, they do play better in the next game. So yes, I agree with Utah in this game. Florida up from minus 109 to minus 112, 76% of the tickets on them, 66% of the cash coming back on Utah. I don't quite want to do it with Florida starting a road trip, but I think you're right. Florida will be in a look-ahead spot because that huge Colorado game is tomorrow. And Florida is coming off a pretty nice win over the Islanders before starting the road trip. So usually I would say that would give you momentum heading into the road trip, but maybe there will be kind of a sandwich spot here, I guess. I don't consider the win over the Islanders to be like that massive, though. So I'm just staying away, but yes, I do agree with Utah, so my apologies. I do agree with that. And in fact, actually, it might actually be the best out of the hockey plays today. It probably is, actually. So, Saab, I do not disagree with you. We're still on the same wavelength here. For the LA Kings and Seattle, LA got us the other win at Utah with Utah returning home from a road trip. LA got the win 4-2. Utah returning, or that was actually the game I was already talking about. Sorry. Utah returned home from the road trip, and LA got us the win there. Now LA continuing. It's only a 2-game road trip here. Don't know if this is the dad trip, but whenever I see a 2-game trip, I'm like, is this the dad trip? We never know anymore. But they're going to Seattle, and you got to think Seattle's going to show up with some focus, though, man. I mean, LA having to come now out of elevation after 2 pretty satisfying wins. Seattle's lost 6 games in a row. You got to think Seattle's going to show up here, man. And 4 of those games have been at home. But against Dallas, Edmonton, Detroit, I mean, you can kind of give them a pass for that. And they lost to Minnesota in their most recent game. Minnesota, they've been hot at least recently, even though I think they're overrated. But now Seattle's still staying at home. You got to think they want to get at least one of these games before they have to go back out on the road. DeCord should be back in net here, my guy from Boston here. Seattle has a couple of Massachusetts guys on their team, man. One of their forwards is from Boston as well. I forget who. But yes, Seattle, I expect them to show up here. Should be their better goalie back in net. Lean towards Seattle in this game. LA is minus 145 on the money line. 76% of the tickets on LA. 62% of the cash on Seattle. So the money is in agreement with that one as well. So I actually agree with the market read in all 4 hockey games here. However, if you do like Seattle, you're fading what is a very strong road team in the Kings, 10-2-4 on the road. And the Kings aren't exactly in like the weakest situational spot either. So those are my thoughts on that. Then we have the NBA, only a couple of games because we're in the NBA break here, which basically is just the NBA Cup is going on until it finishes, I think. Which, my apologies, I never even talk about how this is the NBA Cup, man. But I just usually just handicap it the same way. But now we're in the quarterfinals in the NBA Cup. Now, the way that you want to handicap these games, I think, is that the teams that are like legit national championship, like legit championship contenders here, like the Thunder and the Lakers who are playing tonight, I think you kind of do want to look to fade them in the Cup because these teams in the Cup that realize that they're not going to be championship contenders, like they're not going to be NBA Finals contenders, they put more effort into trying to beat these teams in the Cup. But, I mean, that's kind of just the case anyway, right? Like you see Phoenix at OKC and San Antonio at LA. You know Phoenix and San Antonio are both going to get up for these games anyway. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you don't have to handicap these games any differently. It just kind of works out that way. Now, for Phoenix, they are coming off a nice win at Minnesota. I believe they were a pretty big underdog in that game. Minnesota just has not done well against winning teams, man. Nice win for Phoenix, but they're not going to overlook OKC either, though, you know. So I expect effort out of Phoenix in this game as well. They had 2 days off before they played in Minnesota, so the rest spot isn't that bad. Now, for OKC, their situation isn't that bad either, though, man. And OKC is just annihilating everybody for the most part. So I don't know. Do you really want to fade OKC at home? And maybe OKC is just so dominant. They're like, yeah, fuck it. Let's try to win the Cup as well. I mean, I don't really want to fade OKC here. They're coming off a blowout win in Utah. They've had a couple of days off. They're only returning home from a single-game road trip. They did just beat Phoenix at home, but only by 4, which I could kind of see that going both ways. Like, maybe OKC will actually look at that game and actually make adjustments because Phoenix covered the number against them. So it was actually kind of a bad game for OKC. So maybe they'll actually show up with a better game plan this time. Now, the other thing you have to be aware of is both teams might be in a reverse injured player spot here, which I would keep an eye on this and see who's playing in this game because Booker has been out for the Suns for a bit now. Devin Booker, he's their best player, of course. He may be back in this game. He's a game-time decision here, so that's one thing to look at. So if he's coming back here, it's going to be a reverse injured player spot. Like I always say, when your star player comes back, he's got to get back into the rhythm. The team's got to figure out their roles again. They kind of take a step back sometimes, although I don't think they're going to take a step back when they're playing against the Thunder, but still, it could be a bit of a chemistry issue with Booker coming back. He last played on the 1st against LA, against the Lakers. So that's an issue. But then SGA also has missed time. He's missed at least one game, and he's coming back. For the Thunder, they're still going to be without Hartenstein, but everybody else is, or Hartenstein, I don't know how you pronounce his name. Everybody, Stein, whatever. everybody's coming back, or everybody else is going to be back for OKC in this game for the most part, as far as their like biggest names. So SGA missed the last game. I think maybe they just rested him. I don't really know. I think it was maybe some fake injury. So he's going to be back, which is kind of technically a reverse injured player spot because he missed their last game and they blew out Utah anyway. He might have missed 2 games, actually. I'm not sure. Let me see. The last time he played was December 5th against Dallas. So, okay, see how many games have they played since then? 1. They only played against Utah. So SGA missed 1 game. He's back in this game. So both teams might be getting their best player back here. So it is a difficult game to handicap. The money is indicating on the Thunder. So the Suns look like a public underdog here. 67% of tickets, 61% of the cash. I think the public kind of looking at this thinking, I don't know, that the line is big and seeing that the Suns played the Thunder well the last time. I don't know, man. Thunder down from 15.5 to 14.5. I would not really want to play the Suns in this game, man. I think if Booker comes back, that makes it a worse reverse injured player spot for the Suns because he's missed more time. For the Thunder, it was almost like just a day of rest for SGA, so I think that is not as strong of a, it's not really a reverse injured player spot for that reason, so, and I think the Thunder might actually make adjustments, so I actually slightly lean towards laying it with the Thunder in this game. Then we have Saab, who is not getting the best line value here if he already played the game against with the Spurs here. If he already played the Spurs, because the Lakers are up from 4.5 to 7 here now. And I actually don't know why, because the Spurs, we know they're without Wembanyama. He's not coming back yet. He's supposed to be out for like another week. So I don't understand why the line moved like this unless the Lakers had somebody that might have been questionable and now he's back, because I looked at the injury report and there's nothing significant on there. So I don't really know why the Lakers are up from 4.5 to 7 here. 82% of tickets, 95% of the cash on the Lakers. So the market is kind of indicating on the Lakers right now. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Lakers won the Cup last year. Am I wrong about that? So, I mean, it seems like kind of ho-hum to them, like whatever. Like they want to win the actual NBA Finals. Like I don't really think they care as much about the NBA Cup. And San Antonio did lose a heartbreaking game at the Lakers back on November 5th, which was a loss, I think, here on the show, too. If I remember correct. Maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. But I don't know, because San Antonio probably covered that game because they only lost by 2. I don't think I gave it out as a play at all, actually. But maybe I had a correct lean in that game or whatever. Wembanyama played in that game, of course. That was before he got hurt. But San Antonio only lost the game by 2. LA might be kind of the mindset, well, you know, we already beat San Antonio with Wemba. We should be able to beat them without him, right? They haven't played them since then. So I see San Antonio maybe being overlooked here, maybe making some adjustments here. They're having to play a 4th straight road game, but they're coming off a game over New Orleans where they really didn't play well. Finally, San Antonio had a game that was a flat spot, and they almost lost to New Orleans. I assume San Antonio were big favorites here, like probably even double digits because New Orleans sucks. So I think San Antonio was definitely looking ahead to this game. San Antonio had just played Cleveland the game before that and had beaten Orlando on the road the game before that and had been in a return home spot the game before that. So they'd played a string of huge games. They finally had a flat spot on Monday. So I expect San Antonio to come in with a better effort here after that bad game against New Orleans. I think they were looking ahead to this. For the Lakers are returning home from a road trip where they went to Toronto, Boston, and Philadelphia. So even though they were gone for a little bit less than a week, that's still difficult to return home from an East Coast trip like that, where they beat Toronto and Philadelphia and they got crushed by Boston. Of course, Luka and LeBron both missed time during that road trip, though. Luka missed the games against Toronto and Boston, I think. So that is something to keep in mind there, that he's a little bit more rested because he didn't play those 2 games. But it is still a return home spot, and it's one of those spots where, well, I would say normally, they're returning home for 1 game. They have to go back out on the road. But if you look at it, they don't have to go back out on the road until next week because I think there's some time allotted for whoever's going to continue in the NBA Finals is going to have to continue to play, or the NBA Cup, is going to have to continue to play. Where eventually, by the way, I think these games are going to be at a neutral location. But for now, these games are at the home team's arena for now, up until I think the semifinals, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot going on in this game, man. But yes, it is a return home spot. So yes, LA might be a little bit distracted. Yes, I think San Antonio should show up with more effort here. I do not disagree with Saab on that side, but hopefully you didn't already play it, man, because I would have recommended against playing it that early because you pretty much know the public's looking for things to play tonight. They're going to be looking at the NBA, especially the Spurs-Lakers game. I think that's going to be the game that gets more public play because it's a more competitive game. The public's going to be probably coming in on the Lakers side here for the most part. So, yeah, I would have probably waited on this because I think you could have already kind of expected the number to move up, although I'm kind of surprised it moved up this much already. But you can get that key number of 7 already with San Antonio. So, if you like San Antonio, I'd try to get 7, even 7.5 on this. And that's going to do it, man. No football today. Again, we're going to talk about football tomorrow and going into the weekend. The Bowls are starting, and Army-Navy is also on Saturday, so I have to figure that game out. I rarely have a play in the Army-Navy game, though. I know the professional bettors used to just blindly go under in that game, but I was not really one of those totals guys, so I never really did that. But we'll talk about it all on Saturday. We have that and the LA Bowl. I actually kind of like it more than the Army-Navy game. That's going to do it. The 2 plays today are both college basketball. We're taking NJIT plus the 2. That line seems like it's on the move. I don't think we're going to get a better number than that at this point. And then Tulsa, I don't know where that line is going, but that line might be moving in the Tulsa direction too. So we're laying the 22.5 with Tulsa. That's going to do it, man. I appreciate everybody hanging out here. Learn to Tone on Instagram. Learn to Tone on Twitter. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Do what Mr. Pinsey is doing and tell everybody about it. I hope Jeffrey is okay. Don't know where he is this week. What else? We're on audio, so go listen on audio to Toadstool Sports or on Spotify, Apple. Give me good reviews over there. We got my ukulele project on YouTube is covered in uke. You can check that out. There's a Patreon, patreon.com/learntotode. Uke Spotify feed there. I looked at Charles' requests finally, and they're not easy because I don't really know them. So, if I'm going to do them, it's going to take me a while. So, Charles, if you're out there, I apologize. I'm going to try, but it's going to take me a bit to do them. And I'm in Christmas mode right now. So, right now, it's going to be pretty much the Christmas covers for the holiday season. So, allow me some time at least, but I'm going to try. And then we have the newest comedy panel podcast with The Loser Cast, which we had our second episode last night. I think it was good. I had fun. I think it was funny. You can go check that out. It's actually on the Loser Cast channel. You can check that out. We all nominate losers, make fun of them, make fun of ourselves. It's me, Leighton from Outlawed Thoughts, Tyler from Liberty Podcast Review, and the former Tower Game producer. Some dudes, I apologize that I still don't know their names. Broseph and the other guy who goes by Zenis Domenis. I forget what his actual name is because he sits in Leighton's room, literally, physically, in kind of a gay duo there. And Adam Nutter is supposed to be one of the co-hosts, but he's not because he hasn't shown up for either episode. So, we'll see what happens with that show. Hopefully it takes off. We're doing it as kind of a Legion of Skanks after show right now as well. We do it after LOS. And then at some point, the Giants podcast with me and Ben Weir, the emo ANCAP, the G spot. At some point, we're going to be doing that, man. So we may be doing a live watch party of the Giants-Redskins game on Sunday. We'll see what happens. We were supposed to do a Giants bye week episode to kick it off this week, but I didn't hear back from him, so I don't know. He must have been busy. He's got a baby, so he's busy, Yes, that's going to do it. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'll be back tomorrow morning with the Thursday breakdown. And I think hopefully it's another light board tomorrow. And I'm going to tell you right now, Mr. Thursday Night might get that Thursday night game wrong this time. I'm definitely not going to be interested in giving out a play on the Thursday NFL game this week, but we'll see. That's going to do it for now. Peace until tomorrow.